Hello and welcome to another Autodesk Alias Subdivision tutorial. My name is Johan Wendesten and today I will show you how to model these Apple Airpods. We're not getting younger, so we better get started. According to my research, these AirPods are about 40.5 millimeters tall, so I want to create a distance locator with that same height and then match my canvas images to that distance locator. And if you are new to Alias and you don't know your way around distance locators, I will show you how to create one. First I choose the left view. Then I go to Locators, Measure and Distance. I hold the Alt key to snap the start point at the origin, and then I press Tab to switch focus to the command input up here, where I type 0, 0 and 40.5, which gives me the distance locator with the proper height. To then import my canvas image, I go to File, Import and Canvas Image. I make sure that Always Create New Canvas is enabled, then I click Go. Here I choose the image that I want, which in this case is the side view. I increase the transparency to around 0.2. And then I simply proceed to move and scale the canvas image until I'm matching with the distance locator. And when that is done, I just repeat this first step for the front view as well. I make sure to move the canvas images a bit out of the way from where I will be placing my model later on. And I also get rid of the distance locator since I don't need it anymore. I create a new layer, which I will be naming Reference Images. There we go. I select the canvas images and then I add them to the layer, which I make a reference layer so I can't select them by accident. Since we are going to work mostly with subdivision modeling, it is a good idea for you to switch to the subdivision modeling workflow, which you can do either by pressing Ctrl 5 on your keyboard or by going to Preferences, Workflows and Subdiv. Switching workflow gives you access to all the handy subdivision tools in form of the shelf, as well as the marquee menus. And with all that out of the way, we can finally begin modeling. I will start out by creating the neck of the AirPod, and for that I will use a cylinder which I snap to the origin. Since it's way too big, I need to scale it, and for that I use the scale tool, which I can access through the R key on my keyboard. I switch to the front view, and I make sure that it's an actual orthographic view. Then I proceed to scale until I am matching with my canvas image. I then press the W key to access the Move tool, which I then use to move everything upwards a bit. Now I choose Pick Vertex to be able to move only this upper row of vertices up until around here. I then switch to the side view, where I select all the vertices and move the whole object rearward, as well as doing some other tweaks. I then use Pick Edge Loop to select all the edges around the top border of the cylinder. These ones. I then rely on the Extrude tool to create a whole new set of faces, which I then scale, rotate and move into place by way of the Extrude tool manipulator. To get the shape that I want, I need an extra edge loop in between these two, and for that I use the Insert Edge Loop tool. And here you see me using the slider to get the edge exactly in the center. I use the Move tool and I move this entire edge loop rearward slightly to start shaping the bend of the neck. But now I want to show you something important, because I want to scale this edge loop as well, but I can't simply scale it in the X, Y and Z direction, because then I will skew the edge loop. So what I have to do instead is to rely on the Transform tool, which you can access by pressing Q on your keyboard. While in the Transform tool, I go down to the bottom right corner where I click Adjust Manipulator. Then I can rotate the manipulator, and when I'm happy with its alignment, I simply go back and click the Transform button. And now I can scale this edge loop on a custom axis, just like I want to. And although this may seem insignificant in this instance, where I use it to make such a minor adjustment, it is actually a really powerful feature which I will be making use of a lot throughout this tutorial. And last but not least, I make sure to scale these upper edge loops in the Y direction as well, to help with the future blending between the neck and the head, if you will. And speaking about the head, that is what we will be modeling next. For this I also start out with a cylinder, which I scale and move into place in both the front view and the side view. I then use Pick Edge Loop to select all these border edges. I click the Fill Hole button to simply fill the hole, and it's important that the Fill Hole mode is set to single face. But as you can see, this leaves us with some weird topology, and it's because of the 8-sided face over here. So we need to split this into smaller segments by using the Cut tool. with which I cut from one side to the other, and then I cut perpendicular to the first cut. And you can see that this cleans up our topology, since we now only have 4-sided faces. And what's good about this edge flow is that I can use the center vertex and move it forward slightly to round the shape off a bit. And then it's back to the side view for some more modifications. To be able to better match the shape, I need some extra geometry, why I insert an extra edge loop in the center. Now, with all the necessary geometry in place, it's just a matter of moving, rotating and scaling vertices until I'm happy with the result. And now it's time to bridge these two objects, and for that I would rather be in box mode, which I can toggle by pressing the 1 key on my keyboard. With both border edge loops selected, I click the Bridge tool button. But before I can simply build the bridge, there are two things I need to take care of. First, I need to make sure that the bridge's starting point is the same on both sides, while I'm dragging this arrow to the edge over here. Both arrows also need to face the same direction, while I'm clicking the tip of the arrow over here to reverse it. And now with the proper setup, I can click the build button, and this gives me the bridge result that I want. Now starts the fun part, where I will try to sculpt this into the shape of the actual Airpod. And notice how I am using the transform tool and the adjust manipulator function all the time. Although this part of the neck is completely straight and we don't really need an extra edge loop here in order to shape it the way we want, it can be a good idea to add one anyway, since it will help with the stretching that can otherwise occur when the spacing between edge loops in your model is too uneven. And with that, our Airpod is slowly starting to take shape. Next, we will tackle the speaker area. For this, we don't really need the main volume, so I hide it using the invisible function. Then I start out by creating a plane, which obviously is way too big, why I need to scale it, as well as moving it into place. With the offset mode set to relative in the insert edge loop tool options, I then use the slider to insert edge loops with even spacing in between them. As you may have noticed, a flat plane doesn't smooth the same way as a 3-dimensional object will, why I use the extrude tool to add some thickness to it. And here you can see how that immediately changed the shape of the object from sharp to round. With this more accurate representation of the end result, I can now do some more sculpting in the left view. Since adding thickness to the object was merely a temporary measure, I can now get rid of these extra faces, which I no longer need. I then need to move this surface into place in the front view. And as you can tell from the reference image, it's supposed to be a bit curved, and for that I will use the Align to Surface tool. I set it to degree 2, and I want to project in the y-axis. Then I click Generate Surface, which creates the surface for me. If I disable the controls for the subdivision object, and then turn on the hulls and CVs for the help surface, I can then use this help surface to shape the subdivision object. When I'm happy with the changes I made, I delete the history for the objects, and then I delete the help surface as well, since I don't need it anymore. Then it's just a matter of connecting these two objects. But before I can do that, I need to create an opening, why I am deleting these 4 faces. I also use the scale tool to planarize all these edges, since I think that will yield a better end result. With the border edge loops on both sides selected, I can then once again make use of the bridge tool. And notice how this time the arrows are aligned properly, while I can simply press spacebar on my keyboard to perform the bridge. Whenever you have joined two pieces together like this, it is usually a good idea to go over the model and make modifications to the vertices to make sure that the pieces are blending together nicely. So that's what you see me doing here. Now that isn't looking too bad, is it? I think that we are headed in the right direction. And with that, it is time to create the hole for the speaker, which is going to be fairly simple. I just select these 4 faces, and then I use the extrude tool with the global mode on. With the scale function of the extrude tool, I then scale the faces inward to create the offset. And after doing so, I must remember to move the faces outwards just a tiny bit in order to not create a inflection in the surface. Then I create another extrusion, but this time by moving the faces in the y direction. I first make a small one to create a support edge, which will add some definition to the border, and after that I make a bigger one. I don't want a blend between the sidewall and the back surface, so with the 4 faces selected, I click the Extract tool button. With Keep Original off, I click Go, which turns these faces into a separate object, thus removing the blend between them and the sidewall. I need to make sure that the hole for the speaker is matching the one in the image reference. And here you can see that it really isn't, why I need to make modifications to it, by way of the Scale and Move tool respectively. I also would like to try to add some more definition around the hole for the speaker, why I'm inserting an extra edge loop there. To make sure that this surface isn't too flat, I would like to add some crown to it, and for that I will make use of the Transform CV Normal tool, with which I hold and drag with my left mouse button to pump the surface. Like so. With some final modifications to the vertices surrounding the whole of the speaker, I think that we can call it a day as far as the main volume of the Airpod goes, and instead move on to the bottom end cap. And creating this piece will be fairly straightforward. First I extrude the bottom edges to create some new faces. And then I use extract on these faces to turn them into a separate object. Just like before, I need to fill the hole in the bottom and then sort out the topology by way of the cut tool. And then it's just a matter of transforming vertices until our model is matching with the one in the reference image. And why not start with this one? I feel like I need some more geometry, why I'm inserting an edge loop right around here. With this newly added geometry, I'm then able to mold my end cap into the shape that I want. I would like to create a makeshift material split between both objects, why I'm creating these flanges with the extrude tool. Then to add some extra definition to the border, I insert an edge loop over here. And last but not least, I make use of the Transform CV Normal tool to add some crown to the surface. And now I just repeat this last step for the main volume as well. So remember, first we extrude flanges, and then we add an extra edge loop for definition. And to me it looks like we need to select this edge loop and slide it down just a little bit to create a sharper edge and a smaller radius. So that's already looking better. And look at that, the main part of our work is done. And now the only thing that remains is the details. Because if you look at the reference images, you can see that there are some holes, insets or bezels, or whatever you want to call them, that we haven't yet modeled. But we will take care of those in part 2 of this series. So thank you for watching and see you in that video.